Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Me, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. Shanks has a somewhat mysterious past, and little by little, Oda-sensei has been giving us clues about the origin of this enigmatic character and his real objectives within the One Piece universe. So in today's video, we're going to talk about everything we know so far about Shanks. How he came into the story, how Roger managed to find him, and what his current goals might be. But before we dive into the video, if you're new to the channel or even if you've watched a bunch of our videos, we'd be absolutely honored if you'd leave us a like and even subscribe and maybe leave us a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out, especially with that old YouTube algorithm, and it keeps motivating us to make more content. If you'd like to help out the channel in a bigger way, consider sharing this video or another one of your favorites with your friend. Well, without further ado, let's get into the video. So my friends, Shanks was born in West Blue and was found by the Roger Pirates when he was just a one-year-old baby inside a treasure chest in God Valley. And it's quite possible that he was placed inside this chest after the confrontation that followed the Celestial Dragon's inhumane human hunt. Shanks could have been placed inside this chest during that great confrontation that took place between Roger, Garp, and Roxy Zebek. Now, although it's unknown how he ended up in this situation, Shanks was taken in by the crew and grew up alongside all of the Roger Pirates. At age 9, he became an apprentice to the Roger Pirates along with Buggy, and over the years, Shanks and Buggy had many adventures together. And at the time, Shanks was already wearing that iconic straw hat that had been given to him by his captain, Goldie Roger. The two young apprentices spent most of their time arguing nonsense and annoying the crew's first officer, Silvers Rayleigh. But despite their differences, Shanks and Buggy were often seen together aboard the ship. On one of his adventures, he came across the animenomi, or chop chop fruit, and Buggy ended up accidentally eating the devil fruit because of Shanks. And this caused Buggy to blame his companion until this very present day. During his time with the Roger Pirates, Shanks also experienced multiple battles, such as the Battle of the Ed War, and even against the Whitebeard Pirates. And Shanks had also ventured to Skypiea, where they had discovered Shandora's Golden Bell, and even visited several islands, including Water 7, Tequila Wolf, Sabadi Archipelago, and even Fishman Island. Upon Roger's return from Laughtail, Shanks had a conversation with him and ended up crying because of it. And a year before Roger lost his life, the crew was secretly disbanded, with Roger being the first to leave the ship. Shanks, along with other members, left the crew, and on the day of Roger's execution at Logtown, Shanks was present and wept over the loss of his former captain. And it was at this point that he began planning his own career as a pirate. Shanks even offered Buggy a place on his crew, but Buggy refused because Shanks had given up on going after the One Piece treasure, just like his former captain. So the two went their separate ways, and since then, Shanks has been an independent pirate assembling his own crew. Shanks initially recruited his right-hand man, Ben Beckman, and then added other skilled pirates that had aroused his interest. For instance, Yasopp, who was an excellent marksman, and even Lucky Rube, further expanding his crew throughout all of his journeys across the seas. At some unknown point of his journey, Shanks had an encounter with Marshal D. Teach, resulting in the 3 iconic scars over his left eye. And Shanks also had frequent battles with Mihawk, which were known to resonate throughout the Grand Line. Years later, Shanks' crew stole the Gomu Gomu no Mi, which had been guarded on a government ship by CP9 at the time, and the very agent that was present was Who's Who. And the same year, Shanks arrived on Dawn Island, where he met a young man named Monkey D. Luffy. Shanks was intrigued by the boy and enjoyed the atmosphere of Fuchsia Village, so he decided to establish the island as his crew's base for at least a short period of time, and he ended up extending it to a year. During that time, Shanks and Luffy became very close, and after the events in where Shanks fought off mountain bandits to save Luffy and losing his arm in the process, Shanks and his crew then departed the island. But before leaving, Shanks gave Luffy his precious straw hat and told him to give it back to him when he became a great pirate. This act caused Luffy to cry, but also sealed the very solemn promise that still stands to this day between these two pirates. And as Shanks boarded his ship, Beckman told him that he believed Luffy would become a famous pirate. And Shanks agreed because Luffy had reminded him of himself when he was younger. Shortly after that, Shanks returned to the Grand Line and arrived at Sabadi Archipelago and had a meeting with Rayleigh. And to Rayleigh's surprise, Shanks didn't have his iconic straw hat along with his left arm. When Rayleigh inquired why, Shanks began to excitedly tell him about a young boy that he met in the East Blue who had spoken the very same words as their captain Roger had. And sometime later, presumably right after talking to Rayleigh, Shanks and his crew went and entered the New World. 6 years after leaving Fuchsia Village, Shanks would come to be recognized as one of the 4 emperors of the sea. And at some point, Shanks also met Porcas D. Ace, who thanked him for saving his younger brother and organized a party to celebrate. At a later time, while Shanks and his crew were relaxing on an island after drinking too much, much, Mihawk arrived. He declared that he had no further interest in fighting again and showed Shanks that Luffy had actually acquired his first bounty. Upon seeing that Luffy had finally set out to sea and was starting to excel in his pirate career, Shanks was overjoyed and threw another party to celebrate right on the spot. After that, Shanks next showed interest in Ace's pursuit of Teach, otherwise known as Blackbeard, and even sent Rockstar to deliver a message to Whitebeard regarding the matter. Angry at Shanks for daring to send a letter to ask him to do something, Whitebeard told Rockstar that his captain should show up in person and bring plenty of quality rum. Elsewhere in the world, we saw that Shanks was speaking to Rockstar via a Den Mushi, where he ended up laughing because he saw that Whitebeard hadn't changed anything, and then actually agreed to hold that meeting. A short time later, the two emperors meet. As Shanks boarded Whitebeard's ship, he used his haki to render the lower-ranking members of the crew unconscious. And once on deck, Shanks apologized for his actions and stated that he was just being cautious before telling Newgate that he had come to talk. After talking about the danger that Teach presented and that Ace would be in danger, Shanks and Newgate had a bit of a disagreement, and after finishing their sake, Shanks and Whitebeard drew their swords and clashed. And this was the first time that we fans got to see such power clashing that split the skies in half. Unfortunately, as Shanks had predicted, Teach managed to defeat and capture Ace, and thus handed him over to the Navy to have his life taken in public. And this was all so Teach could become a warlord of the sea. And upon learning the news, Newgate and his allies began moving towards Marineford in an act to save Ace. Hearing that Whitebeard was on the move and looking to have his epic warrior's death, Kaido tried to take advantage of the situation to attack the Whitebeard pirates during that same confrontation in Marineford. But Shanks learned that Kaido was on the move, so to prevent an even bigger battle from happening, Shanks intercepted Kaido and his pirates at sea, creating a conflict between these two emperors. Now, it still hasn't been revealed what exactly transpired between Shanks and Kaido, and although the two captains seemed to end that confrontation in a stalemate, the Marines were still extremely worried about the possible problems that would arise from a battle between two emperors, because a fight between two emperors would absolutely have devastating effects and also leave a huge impact on the entire world. Following the Battle of the Best, after Ace and Whitebeard had both lost their lives during the battle, Shanks suddenly arrived at Marineford just in time to save Kobe from having his life taken away by Admiral Akainu. And he even took the time to praise the young sailor for his determination and standing up for his own values. Shanks even went a little further, saying that Kobe had found the few seconds of courage to change the fate of the world with his convictions and brave words, just before proclaiming that he was in fact there to end the battle. As the Marines surveyed the scene, they noticed the presence of other members of the red-haired pirates, and even wondered how Shanks had managed to get to Marineford so quickly after having fought with Kaido the day before. When Shanks noticed Buggy, he asked him to give his straw hat back to Luffy and lied by saying that he would reward him with a treasure map. When Lucky Roo asked if he was sure that he didn't want to see Luffy again, Shanks admitted that he really did want to, but just it would break their promise because it was too soon. After Trafalgar Law appeared in the middle of the fight to rescue Luffy, they managed to leave before anything worse could happen. Then, Shanks ordered Marco to withdraw to end the battle. Shanks told the remnants of both Whitebeard's crew and the Marines present that he and his crew would fight anyone that wanted to continue the battle. Next, Shanks turned his attention to Teach and asked him what he wanted to do, but Teach decided to leave instead, determining that it wasn't yet time to face Shanks. And then, in what could almost be considered the boldest move of anything Shanks had said or asked on the battlefield, Shanks asked Fleet Admiral Sengoku to hand over the bodies of Ace and Newgate so that he could give them a dignified burial. Surprisingly, Sengoku agreed, saying that he would take the responsibility for his own actions, and Shanks sincerely thanked him for doing that. Sometime later in the New World, Shanks and the rest of Newgate's pirates gathered for Ace and Newgate's wake, saying goodbye to these two great pirates who sought to become the most famous and powerful pirates in the world. It was quite a while before we saw Shanks again, but he ended up appearing near Wano because he was on the search for Bartolomeo for what he had done in some of Shanks' territories, and his presence, just his presence miles away, caused Admiral Ryukugyu to leave Wano, failing his mission to capture and end Luffy's life. The final and most recent time we've seen Shanks was when something happened in Elbaf. After the great conflict in Wano, both Law, Kid, and Luffy headed out in separate ways, and Shanks ended up being on Elbaf, which is the island of the giants. And while having fun with some of his allies and friends, Shanks received news that the Kid pirates were heading towards him. Shanks gave Kid and the rest of his crew the opportunity to back away. They handed over their information about the road poneglyphs, but they refused, and through what could only be called a quick and simple victory, Shanks not only took out Kid and the rest of his crew, but he also managed to obtain what he had wanted so much. And now, he seems to be setting out for his real adventure in search of the One Piece treasure. So there you have it, friends. All of the different events that we've seen Shanks appear in after starting his life as a pirate. And moving forward, we don't know what his actual goals and what mysterious plans he might have. We've seen little glimpses and hints, but as many of us here in the One Piece community have talked about, we still don't actually know what Shanks' story and motivations are in the overall scope of our story. Could Shanks just be a mentor and somebody who wants to guide Luffy because he actually saw that Nika or that next Joy Boy in him? Or is there something more sinister waiting behind Shanks' smile, where he really is that big bad that we'll find at the very end of our tale? My friends, let us know what you think Shanks' motivations are and what we might still learn about him in the comments below. So as we wrap up our video, we'd like to thank you all so much for watching, especially those of you who've made it here to the very end. Make sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like and hit that red subscribe button before you head out to take on the rest of your day. Look forward to seeing you all in our next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.